UFC Paris, Saturday night. Actually, Saturday night in Paris, but Saturday during the day in the U.S.
Saturday day.
It's a fun card, Alex. A lot of French fighters, a lot of exciting fighters. There's a lot of Americans on this, too. A lot of guys. If you look up and down the card, it's people you'll recognize. The main card especially, a 6-fight main card, and we're going to give you every fight on the main card analysis, picks, who we think is going to win. That's what picks are, some stats.
Predictions and hows.
So, Alex, without further ado, let's get into it with the main card opener. And as I said, there's a lot of French fighters in this one. I think every fight on the main card has a French fighter. Ziam, the smile killer, the Frenchman, taking on the American steamroller Matt Frevola. Ziam comes in 15-4, 5-2 in the UFC. Frevola, 11-4 and 1 draw overall. He's 5-4-1 in the UFC though, so he hasn't seen quite as much
success,
consistent success as I am, because technically he's had the same amount of success and the same amount of wins.
Fair.
Frevola has a lot more finishes though than Ziam in the UFC. 3 UFC KOs. Ziam does not have a KO. Does not have any finishes in the UFC. Mm-hmm. But on the flip side, Frevola's also been KO'd 3 times in the UFC, including his last fight against another Frenchman, Benoit Saint-Denis, who we'll talk about later.
Yeah. I was looking at Ziam, the smile killer. One of the things that...
I imagine it's a French nickname and we're just translating it. I'm sure it sounds better in French.
I was thinking about that today. I didn't care to look it up, but I was thinking about it today. Ziam, he has good takedown defense, which Frevola typically shoots, takedowns per match. They're close, in skill set as far as they're well-rounded.
Both guys can knock you out, can sub you.
Right.
They're comfortable fighting anywhere.
Right. But so far in the UFC, Ziam hasn't gotten off a lot of strikes per match. He's won by decision. All 5 of his UFC wins are by decision. He has 1 sub loss and 1 decision loss. That's his 5-2.
And he's won 5 out of 6, so he lost his first fight, and then he's kind of been on a roll lately with 3 straight wins.
He has good takedown defense, but I think the busier fighter is going to prevail here. I think Matt Frevola, busier. We have more to look at.
Yeah, and although he got knocked out, as I said, in his last fight, before that he had 3 straight TKOs, so he was on a roll. It looked like he'd kind of turned the corner. And listen, getting knocked out by Benoit Saint-Denis is not, it's not a bad loss. I mean, he was kind of dominating Dustin Poirier until he got a little too
cocky,
zealous. I wouldn't say cocky, but yeah, he got he came forward a little too much. So it's not a bad loss for Frevola. I think Frevola, he's a guy that can knock you out. I know Ziam's never been knocked out, but Frevola's, I think he kind of regains what he had before the Benoit Saint-Denis fight. Mm-hmm. He took a little while off. That was all the way back in November, so almost an entire year. I think Frevola's going to come in, clear head. I think he returns to that as he was in his winning streak.
Okay.
I think Frevola gets the win. I think he beats the Frenchman in Paris.
Okay, you got Frevola. I also have Frevola, but just to add to it a little bit more, both guys kind of have a kryptonite if you look at it. Ziam's been subbed 3 times. Frevola's been knocked out 3 times. That's typically their way to go if they're losing in the UFC or losing in their career. With Frevola, I think his ability to grab that takedown is going to be what's going to give him the advantage.
And I'm not seeing Ziam coming out and knocking Frevola out because he's never done that in the UFC.
Right. It's not like power hasn't translated. That's just not his game plan. He's won by decision through good fights. I agree with you. I think Matt Frevola to win probably by decision, I'd say.
Yeah, I want to say knockout, but I'm kind of leaning towards decision too. But I think we both agree. Matt Frevola, the American, goes into France, gets a win.
So let's go to the next fight. Morgan Charriere, the last pirate.
Again, I think that's one that's probably
translated better.
Yeah, probably translated.
Taking on Gabriel Miranda. Fly is his nickname.
Which is cool.
Probably translates better in Portuguese.
Miranda, out of his 17 career wins, 16 of them by submission.
Yeah, so this guy, and the other one was a decision, correct?
Other one was a knockout. He has 1 knockout.
Oh, he's never been to the scorecards for his wins. You're right.
And then Charriere, he has 19 career wins, 11 of those KOs. Both 1-1 in the UFC.
Yep.
And both as as we just said, Charriere, his one win is by KO. Miranda, his one win in the UFC is by submission.
Yeah, Charriere lost to Chepe Mariscal by split decision.
That was a close fight. Arguably, Charriere has an argument to say,
Right.
but he thought he could have won that fight.
My question is with, Charriere is 28. He's got, 30 pro fights total? 19 wins, 10 losses. He's got very favorable odds here, minus 800. With Gabriel Miranda coming in at plus 475, the underdog. I mean, do you see something that I'm missing here?
Well, I think the difference is going to be the striking. I think Charriere holds a big advantage over that. And although Miranda has 16 career submission wins, Charriere doesn't really get finished that much. So I think the thinking is that Miranda's coming in with a
ground only approach.
With a ground only and like one way to win this. Charriere is a little more well-rounded.
Similar to like a Weston Wilson coming in and just getting KO'd because he's just keeping on the takedown. Or,
and Miranda has already got knocked out once in the UFC. Charriere, that's his bread and butter. Like, he's going to try to knock you out. I think that's the thinking. It's in France, too, so I think that probably plays a little bit into it. I get what you're saying. I do question why the odds are that drastic, though. Minus 800. If it was like minus 200 or 300, yeah, I'm all about it. I might put some action on it. But minus 800.
I mean, both guys are 1-1. They're both brand new in the UFC. I guess
there's an
Charriere
age
getting
difference.
A split decision with Mariscal is added weight.
His
for
one
him.
loss was a good showing from Charriere. The
Right.
one loss from Miranda was not a good showing. That's one thing I guess you could put out there.
But in his career, Charriere has gone to the scorecards a lot. 14 total times. He's only won 5 of them. 9 of his losses are by decision.
Yes, but he's actually been on a roll as of late.
Yes.
He started off slow in his professional career. Probably didn't have a lot of amateur fights, and then he's kind of grown into it.
My thinking, I'm gonna take this is gonna be like a reach play. It's hard for me to just say that Miranda's gonna win, but I think Miranda could win this fight. I think Charriere has some opposite-ended flaws. He's a knockout guy going against a sub guy. I think either one could get caught in this one. I'm just hoping for the big upset.
I'm not hoping for it. I think Charriere gets the win. I think he knocks Miranda out. I think there's a reason. They know something we don't know. I think there's a reason the odds are in this favor. I think Charriere, he has good enough defense where he's not going to get subbed. He knows that's what he has to look out for, and his hands are going to be flying. I got Charriere by knockout.
Yeah, to Charriere's credit, he has only been subbed once. So I get...
And it was a while ago.
I get the thinking there. It's all fine. I'm going to take Gabriel Miranda by the big upset, plus 475.
One interesting
underdog.
thing, though, is both guys, if they go to the scorecard, I mean, Miranda's 0-4 on the scorecard.
Yeah.
Charriere's 5-9. So neither guy wins a lot by decision.
So maybe the busier fighter could prevail. Another crazy, if it's an all-ground fight, maybe that does favor Miranda. We'll see. Next fight, Kevin Jousset. Is that how you say that?
I believe so.
Taking on Bryan Battle. Bryan Battle has been fun recently. But
He's a fun guy to watch.
Let's talk Kevin Jousset first. Jousset is on a 5-fight win streak.
2-0 in the UFC.
About to say that. His only sub was his debut. Only career submission victory was his UFC debut, which is pretty cool.
And then his last fight, he won by unanimous decision.
Right. Bryan Battle, on the other hand, seems to be in his prime. He has one loss recently to Renato Moicano.
And then his last fight, we all remember.
He was
no contest, but I think everybody remembers after the fight.
He was beating Angelusa, and eye poke or whatever it was, no contest. And then Angelusa wanted to talk shit after. Like, I'm going to beat your ass, yada, yada, yada. And Bryan Battle simply is like, well, you should have done it during the fight, maybe.
And they both got very angry at each other.
Yeah, it was fun. I think Bryan Battle's in his prime, 3-1-1 in his last 5. That one on the end there is the no contest.
5-1-1 overall in the UFC, so he's been
good the whole time.
He's been good the whole time. One interesting thing about Jousset, you know where he trains? I was surprised by this.
Nowhere.
City Kickboxing in New Zealand.
Oh,
he's
cool.
a French guy that lives now and fights out of New Zealand. So it almost
come to think of it, I've seen that now that you mention it.
In my opinion, I know he's going back home, but that almost takes the home field advantage because you're still traveling. You're still not.
Yeah, you still have to. You both have to show
time
up at
adjustment.
France.
Yeah,
like not.
you still have to show up early like those guys that, a few weeks early just to.
You want to adjust. He probably, to his credit though, he probably has a guaranteed place, a nice place, family where he can just stay at home, maybe something like that. Either way, high finishing rate for Bryan Battle. 3 KOs, 6 subs. She's only been to the scorecards 3 times, won twice, lost once. He's favorited by a margin, small.
He's very well-rounded Battle.
Yeah. Yeah. Very, very well-rounded.
There we go.
English. I picked Bryan Battle. I think Bryan Battle is going to continue his impressive finishing display. I'm going to take Bryan Battle by KO.
I agree. I think second time on the main card today, an American's going to beat a Frenchman. I got Bryan Battle winning this fight.
How do you think Bryan Battle will win? He's got 3 KOs, 6 submissions. He's only been subbed once.
I think it's going to be a slugfest between these two guys, and I think
I'm going
to jump on the train with you. I think Battle gets the TKO KO win in this one.
I was going to say that Jousset, if I'm saying that correctly, his 5 KO wins, with the 1 sub, and that sub, like I said, coming on his UFC debut, he wasn't expecting to get that one.
Correct.
He wants to go into a bunch of bangers.
He's opportunistic.
Absolutely.
All right, let's move on. Next fight, another French fighter, William Gomis, the Jaguar, taking on Joanderson Brito, the Brazilian. Joanderson comes in 17 wins, 3 losses, 1 draw in his career with a 5-1 UFC record. All 5 of those wins by finish. That's 3 KOs, 2 subs. And Gomis, on his part, 3-0 in the UFC, 1 KO. So both guys come in with a lot of success in the UFC. They're both relatively early in their careers. They both have been gangbuster. Both guys a lot of momentum coming into this.
Yep. Gomez, however you say his name, Gomis.
I think the S is silent.
Okay, let's go with Gomis. Gomis, the Jaguar, he's coming in. He's facing his biggest test yet, quite simply.
I agree.
Joanderson Brito finishes everybody. Not literally everybody, but almost. 15 career finishes, 17 career wins. Only been to the scorecard 3 times.
Never in the UFC for a win.
Right. He's been strong in the UFC.
He beat Jack Shore in a second-round TKO in his last fight. So, that's a good win for him.
And his only loss was to Bill Algeo. So, or his only loss in the UFC, I should say, was to Bill Algeo. That's I guess, kind of bad look how Bill Algeo's aging in the UFC.
Yeah, but MMA math never makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, every fight, even in the biggest crazy odds,
totally
it's a game
different.
of inches.
Yeah.
I mean, you don't move your head one time, and next thing you know, you're waking up and you lost. So I think Joanderson Brito is going to have a lot of success in this fight. He's the test for Gomis that Gomis needs, but being an orthodox fighter, it's the test that he's going to see time and time again in his career. Brito has the kind of significant test, and he's facing the southpaw fighter. Can he handle that look? Can he handle the weird take? I think it's a Sansa style for Gomis. Can he handle that kind of weird output? I think the answer is yes. I got to say Brito by finish. I'm going to go with knockout because I don't think Gomis is going to want to take this fight to the ground, even if he gets hurt.
I think it's going to be Brito. I agree with you, but I think Brito has the advantage with the submissions. I think he gets a submission in this fight. I think it's going to be a close fight. I think this low-key has the chance to be the fight of the night. I think both guys are going to be game. Both guys are going to come out. They're both, as we said, have had a lot of success in the UFC.
Yeah.
So I think both guys are going to come out very confident. The crowd's going to be going for this. I got the Brazilian, though, winning. Brito.
Next fight, big middleweight title implications.
Co-main event.
Winner.
Both guys can arguably say if they win this fight, they get a title shot next.
Yeah. There's one other fight, but maybe that there would be made, but they deserve a title shot, either one. Nassourdine, the sniper Imavov.
The Russian sniper who's a Frenchman.
I love it.
From Dagestan.
Taking on Brendan All-In Allen from Louisiana.
Shout out Louisiana.
Love the guy. Imavov is 14-4 in his career, 6 KOs, 4 subs, 4 decisions, only losing once by sub, 3 times by decision. Brendan Allen's 5 KOs, 14 subs, 5 decisions.
Do you know Brendan Allen's record in the UFC?
No, it's a lot to not a lot.
12-2.
There you go.
I mean, that if you look at as much as UFC records as we look at, if
That's
you're 12-2 in the UFC, like you are a legit elite fighter.
Both fighters lost to Strickland.
Both guys lost to Strickland. Imavov 6-2-1 in the UFC with that one no contest. So he also
The other loss for Allen was Chris Curtis, which he avenged
who he
recently.
avenged in his last fight.
Yep.
Allen, though, 7 straight wins he's coming in right now, 5 of those by submission. Allen is arguably one of the hottest fighters in the UFC currently.
He's got good striking. He leveled his striking up a lot over the past
that
few
used
fights.
to be his weakness.
Right.
Now he, as you said, he got that in where he can defend
He got
himself.
his hands behind him. He can
got
defend
some
himself,
hands.
defend himself well, and then he can let where he flourishes take hold.
His ground game's so good where he just needs to be a little above average with the hands,
Yep.
and
he's excelling there.
then Imavov has the power, but
Yep.
he's also Dagestani, so you know this boy knows how to wrestle.
Yep.
You know he can
in his career. Hadn't done it in a minute, but
he can wrestle and he can defend a takedown,
Yep.
and he can defend himself on the ground. So it's going to be a very interesting matchup in terms of skill set.
deadlocked on reach. They're both fighting out of orthodox style, so it's going to be the similar look.
Both 28 years old, so just like entering that prime area.
Yeah. This is one of those things where, I said on the last fight we were talking about, it's like a game of inches. This is going to be one of those
Either of these
fights.
guys could come in and win decision, win knockout, win submission.
Who has the better game plan? Who has the better output to get the game plan done? I think in this case, Brendan Allen it's his time to rise. I think he's going to be getting a title shot early 2025. I think he's going to have a show-out performance here. I think he's going to win. I think Brendan Allen is going to win. Never going to vote against the Louisiana boy despite the odds. And on this one, it's pretty much not a pick 'em, but it's close. Plus 175 for Brendan Allen. I like the odds. I like that he's been on a tear recently, avenging his loss and fighting, finishing people. So that's what I got. What's your take?
I agree with you. I think Brendan Allen, as I said, he's one of the hottest fighters in the UFC. He's on a streak. Although Imavov is a monster, he does have some, I don't want to say weaknesses, but I think Brendan Allen is a guy, he's on the ascent. Right now, the way he is fighting and the confidence he has in himself, I think it's going to be hard to beat. I got Allen going into France. I think this is the third American I have beating a French-based fighter on the main card. I got Allen winning the fight, and dare I say it, I think he submits the Dagestani Frenchman.
I didn't even pick a method of victory for this fight. I think, given that Brendan Allen has leveled up his striking enough to win in a Chris Curtis level of striking match, I think Imavov and Chris Curtis have a lot of strengths in the striking range. I think Allen is going to be able to match the striking of Imavov and get the sub victory as well. I think Brendan Allen submission victory.
All right, let's move on to the main event of the evening. One of our favorite fighters who we had to root against last time.
I was okay with it last time.
I was okay with it last time, but we got Benoit Saint-Denis, God of War, taking on Renato Moicano, who's quietly become a very popular and entertaining fighter. He's been one of the most, he's been a hot in terms of how he's been performing too.
He's kind of talking on the mic so well.
He's kind of turned it on as of late, the past couple years. So shout out to Moicano for that. Moicano comes in, he's 11-5 in the UFC, but 3 straight wins. He's taking on Benoit Saint-Denis, as we said, 5-2 in the UFC. He is coming off his first career knockout loss, his first time ever getting finished, and that was to Dustin Poirier back in March.
Love to see it.
In his defense, for about a round and a half, it looked like Poirier was in trouble. But as we said, we alluded to it earlier, Saint-Denis, he wasn't very disciplined. And against a guy like Poirier who has a striking like that and who's powerful like that, he paid the price.
Oh, yeah.
Got knocked unconscious. You would think Benoit Saint-Denis.
I love hearing it still.
I do too. He learned from that. It was 6 months ago. He took some time off. He's now in France, main event. Whole crowd is going to be behind him. How does Saint-Denis perform?
So Saint-Denis is a crazy striker. He's all out. I was watching the...
He's a crazy striker. That's also a way to say he's kind of an undisciplined striker.
In a way.
His defense isn't...
In a way, you're right. I was watching the Bonfim fight today.
He'll take a shot to get a shot.
Right. And
he'll take some hard shots to get shots.
I was about to say, he was going after some body kicks, and he was landing them. And Bonfim was kind of asking for him, knowing that he was going to leave his chin open. And he's like, all right, you want him, I'm going to send him. And he was, by the end of the fight, he won by submission. But by the end of the fight, just huge red welts on the side where it's like, you asked for those shots, Bonfim, and you kind of got choked out. That's one instance where it worked in his favor.
But he has a killer submission game.
Killer submission game,
where he
killer
looks for
striking.
blood.
He knocked Frevola out off a head kick, finished it up with some ground and pound.
I mean, he's well-rounded. He has everything. He probably needs to shore up his
chin down.
He needs to shore up his striking defense.
Yep.
Because that's his biggest hole in his game right now. But everything else in his game is so, I dare say, elite, where
but
he can compete at the highest level in the sport.
Let's give credit where credit's due. We only talked about Benoit Saint-Denis because that's who we're rooting for. Renato Moicano,
one of the best submission artists in the UFC.
Despite getting knocked out in his last fight, they didn't stop it, so he got up and ended up knocking Jalen Turner out.
I don't think he got knocked out. He got knocked down, and it was a hard knockdown. But
if Jalen Turner wouldn't have been petrified from the Bobby Green fight prior, where they just wouldn't stop the fight.
No, I think Jalen Green was just being cocky, and he wanted. It was UFC 300, and he wanted to highlight walk off, which I don't blame him. $300,000. Yeah, but he paid the price for it.
He paid the price. Moicano, that was his first career knockout. Isn't that crazy? He got 10 submissions. A submission guy. He wins by decision often. This is one where I don't think he's going to be able to stack up due to how aggressive Saint-Denis is and how powerful he is.
Because if he gets hit like that,
Saint-Denis is not going to stop.
Yeah.
Because he knocked you down. Saint-Denis is going to pounce on you because he's not scared if you can wrestle. He's going to beat you because he can wrestle.
He's a literal trained killer.
Yeah. I would love to see him fight a Makhachev or a Magomedov at some point. Let's see what kind of does the French wrestling stack up against the Russian
Well, also because
wrestling.
of his background and just his personality, he's a guy that
he would go in there to die one of those fights.
Yeah, exactly. He's not giving up, and he's going to keep coming. Like he's not. You see, sometimes those wrestlers, those kind of guys, they break the will of their opponents.
Yeah.
Like you're not going to break his will.
No.
You might beat him, you might dominate him, but you're not going to break his will.
Yeah, he's going to keep coming back. So this is the big question for the last fight of the night for us and for France. We both have Saint-Denis, the God of War, winning.
Correct.
How do you have him winning? Do you have him winning by finish? KO, submission?
I think it's going to be a spectacular knockout.
Okay.
I'm going to say first round. Benoit Saint-Denis.
First round
gets
knockout.
The French crowd. The French crowd's already crazy, especially in Paris. He's going to get the place rocking.
All right. I agree. I think we could see a knockout. I don't know when, but I think his striking will, I'll say it again, I think his striking will have been leveled up this fight, and he'll have that discipline that he knows he needs. So Benoit Saint-Denis knockout.